This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this?
This is a sham.
No.
Nope.
Y'all, just stop.
Get real.
Good morning. Good
Hey.
morning. Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone out there. We're only 7 days into Pride Month, and now the largest LGBTQ plus advocacy group is out with a major warning, and we're going to talk about it today. So the Human Rights Campaign, or HRC, is declaring a state of emergency for LGBTQ plus Americans. They said it's due to the unprecedented and dangerous spike in anti-LGBTQ plus legislation that's now resulted in hate, discrimination, and even violence. Meantime, more than 200 LGBTQ plus groups have sent a letter demanding Target restock its Pride merchandise that was removed and ask the company to take a stand against anti-LGBTQ plus extremists. And check this out, a massive protest outside an LA school board meeting turned into a massive brawl. The board was voting to reauthorize the official recognition, just the recognition, of June as Pride Month. 3 people were arrested. What do you think? Are the LGBTQ plus Americans under attack? What should they do about it? Al, what do you think about this declaration of emergency?
I don't think today is the day that this conversation has been happening for people that have LGBTQIA plus members in their family. This conversation, which I do, and which a lot of people do.
I think everybody does.
Right. This conversation's been happening for about a year now in terms of rearranging some plans to make sure that people are able to be bonded for life with the people that they want to be with before laws change. Unfortunately, these are conversations I thought we were done having after, was it Proposition 8? Yeah, it was passed so many years ago, but here we are again. And Jeff, I really feel like the people driving this narrative have no real dog in this fight. It's just a need for a boogeyman. And that need has existed since, you know, whatever, the movie Gangs in New York. Your people, Irish immigrants, Italian immigrants came over here. Remember the do not work them, they're coming for our...
For sure.
And then that went into Mexicans coming over the border, and then obviously black folks, and, you know, then it was gay folks in the 90s. They're coming to get your kids, and now it's trans
the AIDS
people.
plague, that whole thing.
The AIDS, but all these things have all just been driven by people that have a financial agenda, have a hate-filled agenda, and usually those two things merge, and they end in conversations like this, the target of which is just depend on which decade we're in.
Yeah. Do you have some?
No, I was going to say I was just letting people know there's about 90,000 estimated people, 30% of high school transgender youth, approximately 90,000 of the estimated 300,000 transgender youth in the United States are living in states where they're unable to, let's say, play alongside their friends with transgender sports. I was just letting people know the scale of everything, even though I think that is a somewhat misleading.
Jeff, what you thinking, man?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I usually bring up the other side. I don't want to bring up the other side. That's a little misleading, the 90,000 people who might want to participate in sports.
They're
It doesn't mean that they want to participate in sports.
Right.
And I think that's a totally different conversation. And I think we need to...
a totally different.
Right, and I think you need to know that, right? You can't just say, I don't know if I agree with transgender people being in the Olympics or being in high school, or whatever that may be. That's a different conversation. Doesn't mean I don't support everything that's going on, and I'm one of the protesters at that thing.
Right.
It's such a small percentage, I got to tell you, and maybe it's a bigger percentage if you are part of the LGBTQ plus community, right? I just didn't witness it in my own life. I lived in Chicago, big city. I live in Los Angeles. I have multiple gay friends that are my best friends. Just home for a family reunion. I have a lot of gay cousins and family members. I think everybody does. And if those people who attacked whoever at that protest looked around and talked to their family, I would think that they would too. I think it's more accepted or at least let's talk about this country, than the media wants to put on. And again, I'm not part of that community. I don't know that. I'm sure there's a lot of hate, and everyone has a story growing up. But the way the media portrays these things, they want us fighting. They want us to think, if you think there's one thing, just like the sports thing, then you're against it all. Mm-hmm. That's not true. That's not the way Americans think.
I completely agree. You know, Tom Papa said something. I was at Target yesterday shopping, and he said something, and it really...
Tell people who Tom Papa is.
Tom Papa, who's coming up on our show and today, and you know, I've spoken with him before, and he said as I travel this country as a comedian, I don't feel like we're as divided as we are.
Yes.
And that sounds like such a politician. I've had that thought. Like, my audiences are Midwest. They are big city, multicultural, people of color. Gay, like, it's not this.
I agree with you.
It is not this. But, and I absolutely want to hear what you have to say.
Please.
It's not this, but when you look at the hundreds of stories that are run, the YouTube vloggers that constantly come up on my feed, you would think it's all people are talking about, but you never hear stories about what's going on with the Brett Favre thing.
Right.
Haven't heard anything about that.
Right.
Haven't heard anything about that. It's just interesting what we see. It's in our face all day, and what isn't.
Is it a perpetuated, fabricated culture war? Perhaps some of that media and some of it is political. But if I am a gay or trans teen and I'm living in Florida right now, it's a very real, dangerous situation for me. And laws are being created that we had already moved past. We're going backwards. And for someone in that minority, it's a very scary moment. And I think we all should stand up as allies if you want to be an ally.
Completely
That's part
agree.
of your agenda as well. On a related note, transgender influencer, you know her, activist Dylan Mulvaney is speaking out about all the hate and vitriol she received following the sponsorship deal she had with Bud Light. Now, in a new interview, Dylan spoke about all the conservative talk show hosts and commentators who've been slamming and insulting her, saying, "I prefer not to name any of those people because it gives them the satisfaction of believing they're on my mind." Dylan isn't the only person reacting to hateful messages. Valerie Bertinelli posted this picture on Instagram to celebrate Pride Month, encouraging people to support Elton John's AIDS Foundation. Well, the post got a lot of hateful comments, and now Valerie is speaking out. Take a look.
I mean, these are people that just want to exist without being killed, without being anything happening to them horrible. But here you are, throwing out more hate, fear. No one wants to turn your child gay. They just want your child, if they are gay, to know that they have a place in this world. That's all. Don't you want your child to know that they have a place in this world?
What do you guys think about that? And Valerie and Dylan, what do you think about Dylan not naming the people? I would have a hard time if I were Dylan not naming nor not suing.
I think that's, Tori, you hit it on the head. You know, there's her name escapes me, but the young black woman that sued the Klan for doxing her and putting her address out. And that's really how they initially stopped the Klan and why they're not as prominent as they were even in the 70s, is because of lawsuits. That's how you end anything in this country. Talking about it, no one's going to be like, you know what, I'm not going to throw a brick through that gay person's window. I'm glad you talked. They're not going to stop. But you know what does stop? January 6th, some jail bars, some 20-year sentences, and a little bit of coin, and that tends to go away really quickly. So I think that's the way to handle this.
I don't think you're ever going to stop it. It's the internet. It's the internet, and everyone's going to get it from one end or the other. Different communities get it more than other people. We get it every day, but there's TV Jeff and regular Jeff every day, and then there's Big Jeff. Yeah. He's regular Jeff. But I like to think I'm the same guy. And in my world, this doesn't exist. I don't know people who go online and hate people for no reason. Again, I was at a family reunion. I was home. I go to big parties in my community. I hang out with friends back in LA. This never comes up. There isn't like, I hate you. I can't believe you showed up because I don't like the color of your skin or the gender or whatever it is that you believe in, or even your political party. It's ridiculous to me how the media portrays this as the biggest stories every single day. But when I live my life and I travel and I go to other places, every one of my friends in my community supports everyone in their community and my other friends. I don't, where's the outpouring of support rather than focusing on the hate?
I do hear people complaining about, and it's what you complain about, extra fees. About things being more expensive. And that's never brought up.
I'm just saying, the people who are trans, it's not extra fees. These people are in danger of losing their lives.
I'm not equating the two. What I'm saying is what the public is talking about and what the media is talking about and what they're driving, which is eventually driving a lot of this violence, is because of them.
But some of it's not fabricated. Some of that's coming from this legislation.
It's always going to be out there.
Right. I just don't want to downplay this legislation.
The ideology
no one's downplaying it.
But you're saying I don't see it everywhere. It's happening in places where they can't read about their lives.
Right, but they make it seem like there's no support out there. This whole show support, everyone in this room supports them. My whole family supports them. My friends support them. You support them. There's support everywhere I look. But then when you get the headlines, nobody supports anybody. That's just not true. That's just not true.
I agree with that.
Fair point. Let us know what you guys think. We'll be right back.
We got your back.
Yeah.
DBL.
This show is amazing.
There's a lot going on down here.
I would have been part of the Mile High Club.
Yeah.
So on point. But I'm gonna have a conversation about what's happening now.
We're having a discussion about like support, and I've talked about her before on the show. I obviously don't name her, but my ex-wife's mother is an advocate in a way that I don't think is ever highlighted. I think a lot of people are advocates but don't show their support with T-shirts and flags. But if you ran up on her and her LGBTQ nephew, that would be the last thing that you ever did. Everybody shows their support differently. Now, we all know somebody else that I knew that wore all the T-shirts and all the BLMs. And how did she handle that? You know, a lot of times showing your support and where you show up when everything's against the fan, those are two different people.
Yeah, here's what I have to say. I agree with you, but allyship, and please jump in, Dre, if you want to, please jump in, because you are welcome and part of this community as well, is that you do it when it's difficult and when things are against you and when it's uncomfortable. And right now in the South, in Florida, in Texas, in certain places where the legislation and the political realm is going towards the boogeyman, like you said, at some point, that becomes a collision course into violence, right?
Absolutely.
That becomes a threat. And we saw the brawl. So if we don't get ahead of that, I'm very concerned that this turns into the civil rights. A culture war refugees. They're leaving states to go to other states. It's become.
Well, I feel like that's what's going to happen either way.
Yeah.
People are already picking colleges based on that college's
But now
ideology.
it's laws. Now this is, like you said, Green Book, where it's like
it's Green
redlining.
Book, and it's also, it's like everybody talked about.
Welcome back to DBL. The world of golf was rocked by a surprise merger announcement yesterday, and some are saying it isn't up to par. The PGA Tour and the Saudi-backed LIV Golf are combining forces along with the European Tour. So the PGA and LIV were bitter rivals, suing one another in court, even questioning each other's morals. But now apparently that is all behind them. However, news of the announcement broke on Twitter, and several golfers first learned of that way. Meantime, some 9/11 families are shocked and deeply offended by the merger, saying, quote, Saudi operatives played a role in the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and it's now being now it is bankrolling all of professional golf. Gentlemen, what do we think of this merger? Did you see it coming? Are you surprised, Jeff?
Maybe a little bit, because they had such a controversial split, right? And it kind of divided the top golfers in the world.
And Jeff, break it down briefly, like tell people what that means.
So going to LIV means it's Saudi money, right? It's a Saudi-owned country. And for different golfers, and I don't want to get too into the weeds here, it might have been a good decision because their time here on the PGA Tour was up. They're past their prime.
Quickly,
Phil Mickelson, for example.
Phil Mickelson left for $200 million. Brooks Koepka left for $100 million. Cameron Smith left for $100 million. Dustin Johnson left for $125 million. Tiger was offered between $700 and $800 million and did not.
Right. So, I mean, the Dustin Johnson, again, we're in the weeds here a little bit. It's hard for me to talk about without bringing up the names, but like the Koepkas and the Dustin Johnsons.
They left for a ton of money.
They left for a ton of money, but I still think they had a spot on the PGA Tour to win some more championships.
For not that money.
So now with them merging, for me as a viewer, I'm kind of into it because I'm like, now we're going to have the good guys and we're kind of going to have the bad guys.
Reality show,
and it's going to be like a WWF type situation in golf. So for me, it's a good thing. As far as the money goes, I don't want to cast stones, because if someone offered me, and a lot of celebrities that you don't know go overseas to do promotions and appearances privately for millions of dollars, and they just don't tell you that they do it. If someone offered me $1 million to go there and because they love the show, I might go over there. Right? And the shirt that you're wearing, how many little kids made that? How many kids picked up things in mines, slavery mines, that are still going on today in the world, but you have no problem using your phone or wearing your designer clothes or driving your car if it's made through slavery. So be easy on who you're throwing stones at.
I think that's fair. What do you think, Al?
I think it's fair. And I mean, you know, as you were talking, Jeff, you were talking kind of abstractly about, you know, would you go overseas? I mean, if they offered the DBL hosts $100 million to go over there and shoot from Saudi Arabia, I think we'd be over there.
I would not. I can't believe you guys are saying this. And I'm saying this not because I understand what you're saying. There is a point to the amount of money. But when you have Saudi Arabia, who may be involved in 9/11, and then took a Washington Post reporter and buzzsawed him in front of Mohammed bin Salman, who is friends with Jared Kushner and the Trumps and got billions from them, all of that to me is blood money. And it is so horrendous the way they treat women, human rights, that I can't believe the PGA is going to merge with them.
But have you looked at the labels that you're wearing, your designer clothes, the leather clothes that you wear, the animal cruelty that goes into it? Again, the cell phones with slavery going on right now. Do you have a problem with all that?
Before we go to break,
I do want to say this.
It's hypocritical.
I'm just curious how this would have played if this was the NBA that would have done this. Honestly, can we? They would have burned an arena to the ground last night.
I agree.
So let's be honest.
No, that's not true, because there's other guys that go overseas and play for Russia, and they play for all different countries, and they come back here and play.
Saudis are different. And
Saudi Arabia is different.
That was how they tried to discredit Obama, saying he was a Muslim. Like this would have been a different story. I do think. But there's a lot of layers to it. It's interesting.
There is. Let us know what you guys think. We'll find out. I think it's sports washing, and they're trying to get a reputation in the international world from Saudi Arabia. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll be right back.
Nothing sounds more refreshing than a cold drink on a hot summer day, but there is a claim that drinking warm fluids can actually cool down your body temperature. So is that true? Let's verify. Our source is Dr. James Reed, internal medicine with Novant Health, and a study published in the National Library of Medicine. When we took this question straight to Dr. Reed.
That's a trick question, Megan. Let me tell you the truth.
He says it's a trick question because whether it works or not really depends on the type of climate you're in.
So in a very low humid environment, you will go ahead and drink something hot, and that will receptors trigger you to sweat. And if you're able to evaporate that sweat, it actually does cool you down.
In dry, hot weather, it's true that hot drinks can cool you down. Dr. Reed says that's because hot liquids stimulate receptors in your throat and mouth that trigger sweat, and the evaporation of that sweat is what cools your body down. However, in humid weather, it's a much different story.
In a highly humid environment, such as the East Coast of the United States, probably not going to allow you to evaporate as much sweat as the heat you're taking in.
This study backs him up. It shows even if that hot drink triggers perspiration, that won't cool you down unless evaporation takes place. So in very hot, humid weather where your sweat can't evaporate, drinking a hot liquid will not cool your body down. Dr. Reed says when in doubt, opt for a cold drink and get out of the heat, especially if you feel your body is overheating. With your Verified, I'm Megan Bragg.
Welcome back. Tom Papa, as we were speaking about, is one of our favorite comedians and quickly becoming one of our favorite authors. Earlier, we spoke with him about his new book. It was a great convo. Take a look. Please welcome to the show, Tom Papa.
Hello. So, Tom, it's always a pleasure to see you, always. So welcome back. So let's talk about your new book. It's called We're All in This Together, So Make Some Room. What inspired this title?
It really came from touring around the country at a time when everyone's saying how divisive everybody is and how we're against each other we are as Americans. And, they just keep fueling this narrative that we all hate each other and we don't get along. And that's not what I was finding on the road. People that come out to the shows, it was like the opposite. People are really craving togetherness, and we're not as separate as the narrative is being shoved down our throat. And then I just started exploring it, and I realized not only are we not against each other, we also need each other in a very profound way. and we can learn from everybody, the smartest around us and the dumbest around us. You can learn lessons from every single person who's been on this planet. And even if people do something dumb, like if I see a guy, jump off of a trampoline into a ceiling fan, I thank that man because I'll never do that.
I agree with you 100%. But in this book, you also talk about hiding from your family to preserve your sanity. I could relate a little bit. I'm not always have an upset stomach. I just like to be in the bathroom by myself. So how are you able to pull this off, Tom? Give me some hints peacefully.
Yes. Well, the advantage that you have and I have is that you are the dad, and nobody really notices when you're missing. You literally can walk out. You could go stand in the pantry 2 feet from your family. No one's asking, where's dad?
Yeah. Sad but true, Tom. Sad but true.
If mom is missing, there's complete chaos. Everybody's, where is she? We need her. Nothing's going to work right. But for a guy, for a dad, you could just kind of wander off into the garage and gather yourself and come back. There'll be times I'll come back early from the road and I'll be like, hey, everybody, I got home early. And they'll look up like, we didn't know you were gone.
Oh, man, that's so bad.
That's so cool.
There's truth to that.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. That's true. I feel for the moms. We got to hand it to you for sticking with your bread making habit, sir, that we all fell off, of course, after 2021. You kept it. What keeps you coming back to the kitchen to bake a fresh loaf? What do you need about it?
Man, I love it. I was doing it way before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, all of these people started saying, I'm into sourdough. I was like, you're not going to stick around. There's no way. I love it. It's very meditative. I just love when I found out that the bread that I could make was so much better for you than the bread that we had been buying in supermarkets our whole lives, that really wasn't even bread. Bread should only have flour, water, salt, and yeast. That's it. And there's 30 ingredients in the bread you get in the supermarket. So when I realized how good it was, I'd never had a hobby. And my friend taught me how to bake bread. And my recommendation to everyone is if you're going to get a hobby, get one that you can eat.
That's a great note, and just like I'm absorbing, but I'm still stuck on when you're talking about the difference between dads and mothers. Yeah. The worst thing is like my kids are at the age now they have phones. I have 3 kids, and I'll be like, oh, let's go to the store, and they'll be like, hold on, let's call mom first. Like, I don't even have low level cred. It's like I need to go to the higher level. So appreciate you speaking for us dads that are probably rightfully neglected.
Yes.
Yeah, and that definitely changed. That's a generational thing. Like when I was a child, and they said, wait till your father comes home.
Right.
It was panic. We would just start crying immediately and hide under the couch. When my daughters heard, wait till your father comes home, they were excited. They're like, oh, good. Someone else who can get in trouble.
Exactly.
That's hilarious.
Tom Papa, we love when you stop by.
Yes.
Thank you for putting a smile on all of our faces. DBL Nation, pick up Tom's newest book. We're all in this together, so make some room. Out now wherever books are sold. Thank you so much, Tom.
Yeah,
we'll be right back.
Thank you so much.
So real. Yes. Thanks, brother.
Bees are a vital part of our ecosystem, but if you encounter a swarm of them, you'll want to know how to keep from getting stung. So our question is, if you're being attacked by a swarm of bees, should you jump into a pool of water? Our source is Nathan Chapman, museum specialist at the Schill Museum, and a 2016 article from Scientific American. Okay, so before we can answer this question, it's important to first understand the 2 types of bee swarms. Nathan Chapman says if you destroy or disturb a beehive, that's when you might get an aggressive bee swarm. If you notice the bees are just trying to make a new hive, you don't have to worry about them.
Aggressive swarm, get as far as possible. The other kind of swarm, like they're dividing, making new hives, remain calm and just try and stay out of the area.
According to the Scientific American, if you accidentally disturb an existing hive, you need to run immediately. If you can, try to get into an enclosed shelter like a car or run until the bees stop following you. Chapman says bees will do anything to stay near their hive.
If the beehive is really close to water, they're going to hang around that area for like very long time, several hours. trying to get into water and like try and swim away, it'd be better to run around the pond on the outside because you're faster.
For the most part, Chapman says if you spot a swarm of bees near your home or office, they're likely just trying to build a new hive.
So leaving them alone, remaining calm, because that swarm can be there for a number of hours or up to days, depending on how long it takes for them to find a new home.
If you discover a swarm of bees have made a hive near where you live, Chapman suggests calling a local beekeeper to safely remove them from your property. So we can verify, no, if you are being chased by an angry swarm of bees, you should not jump in water to escape them. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
First Coast News viewer Vicki Turner got this in the mail. It says your response is required by law, and it says it's the American Community Survey. She was worried that this might be a scam, so she reached out to us. Let's verify. Vicki Turner wrote to me, asking in part, I just figured I couldn't be the only person to receive such a request. There's a website to go to, but if it is a scam, could I receive a virus by going to that website? I'm elderly and trying to be very careful about being scammed. My daughter says just ignore it. It is the bold letters that say my response is required by law that worries me. I can verify that this is real. My sources today are the U.S. Census Bureau and Mike Binder, political science professor at the University of North Florida.
So the American Community Survey is a 100% legitimate thing, but it's useful not only for survey researchers, but for government allocations.
The American Community Survey is sent out every year instead of every 10 like the census. Bender says his group at the Public Opinion Research Lab use this data every day.
It's really, really important. Obviously, the census gets all the attention every 10 years, but in a lot of ways, this provides more information and is used more because it's updated annually.
As for the legal obligations, you do have to respond or you could be fined $100 according to Binder. Now, if you want to verify that this is actually an authentic one in the mail, you can take another step and call the census. We have their number at firstcoastnews.com.
Welcome back. If you suffer from joint pain, but you have to sit at a desk for hours every day, I want you to try these tips for better posture and less pain. Let's do it together. It's time for some joint and muscle support brought to you by Omega XL. First, find a chair that supports your lower and mid back. Next, adjust the height of the chair so your feet are flat on the floor. Now your hips should be slightly higher than your knees. And lastly, hold your shoulders in the same position when sitting as you would when standing. I slouch a lot. Omega XL has improved the lives of millions of consumers, supported by 30 years of clinical research. Omega XL's powerful and proven benefits have transformed the lives of athletes, celebrities, and dedicated daily users. So call 1-800-813-6801 or visit omegaxl.com for more information. Everybody stand up straight, get your shoulders back, head held high. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right.